What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back here with some more Resident Evil gameplay for you. And today I'm going to be asking you guys a simple question. What is the purpose of Capcom's 30th anniversary of Resident Evil? Now, you might not understand where I'm coming from, so let me give you a little context to make it seem more apparent. But when you celebrate something, especially something that's been around for 30 years, you expect a celebration of 30 years of that. In this case, the franchise of Resident Evil. And I've been noticing this ever since that interview about a month ago with GOG talking about what it took to bring the older titles and convince Capcom that there was a market for them in the first place on GOG. And I've kind of, been thinking about it the last few weeks. And obviously with this whole new information about the pre-orders of Resident Evil Requiem, as well as a little 10-minute video giving a little history lesson of Resident Evil. And by the way, no disrespect towards Maggie for doing that. She does a wonderful job, but this is all on Capcom's hand. So it's kind of jarring when you have 30 years of history, but it seems like that the only thing you want to recognize is the RE engine history, which is making a lot of old school fans feel neglected, disrespected, and basically forgotten and left for dead. Which gets me back to my original question. What is the purpose of Capcom's 30th anniversary of Resident Evil? I mean, if you're going to do a whole celebration of 30 years, us fans expect 30 years, for the good and the bad. But I think the thing that was the most jarring for me, and I mentioned this in my previous video, and I also want to just give it a day or two just to, let it marinate, sit in my brain just before I wanted to really talk about it, go a little bit more in depth into it. But I've been, for the love of God, trying to figure this out myself. So when they were doing a whole video going over the history of Resident Evil real quickly and showing what it ultimately leads to in Requiem, they were showcasing like the people responsible for it, and they were mentioning Jill, Claire, Leon, etc. And I get why they were showing off Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake, etc., and move from that point forward. I get that because obviously they're the remakes, they're the newer ones. Even though there's always going to be a debate about the originals and the remakes, I get why they did it because let's just be honest, we knew they were going that route in the first place. Not to mention, you look at the assets for Requiem, they're using the RPD from RE2 remake, so it's no surprise from that point. Even though it'd still be nice to show both of them, but whatever. What was the most jarring about that is how they just seemingly pretended and didn't even mention about, the thing that started this franchise, Resident Evil. Because yes, there was a 1 before there was a 2. And how jarring it was how they didn't even talk about Resident Evil the original, whether the original one or the remake of it. They didn't even mention it at all. Because we wouldn't have a Raccoon City incident without a mansion incident. And it's kind of baffling that you want to celebrate 30 years and not show off the first thing in the franchise. I mean, how many celebrations of a franchise do you know in which you don't want to talk about, the thing that started it in the first place? And it's just jarring because it's funny how the first time they mention Chris in that is when he's in Village. They give a little brief, cameo when they show a glimpse of Resident Evil 5 and 6, but, when they finally mention Chris in any retrospect, it's when he's all the way in Village, like, oh, Chris was one of the OGs along Jill that started this. We wouldn't have what we have today if they didn't have a start. And it's just kind of baffling to me how you just don't mention anything about the original game that started it. And as we get later and later into the year and closer to Requiem's release, it just doesn't feel like a 30th anniversary of Resident Evil celebration. I mean, if you didn't know any context, anything, you would think it's just another year, another day, another release of Resident Evil, but no, this is supposed to be a big deal. And it's just kind of just astonishing how if your game isn't in the RE engine era, it's barely going to get a nod, let alone even a mention at all. I mean, let's just be honest. The only reason why they probably showed a small image and a few seconds of Resident Evil 5 and 6 is just from the fact that they haven't been remade either. But that's literally like what? From 2017 to right now? So we're going to ignore 1996 all the way to 2016? Like, that's a lot of years basically being ignored and not recognized. So how is this a celebration of 30 years? You're supposed to celebrate everything, and also celebrate the people who started originally, as well as show the fans that came in the middle of the group, as well as the fans that are starting coming in right now. Like, how is this respectful towards the franchise when you blatantly just ignore 2/3 of it? That's not a celebration at all. That's disrespectful on so many levels. And then the fact that they're going to act like, well, we're not even going to talk about the first Resident Evil. Something's seriously wrong with this. And I don't know what they have going over there at Capcom in terms of a celebration of Resident Evil. But this ain't it. Honestly, the way they're going right now, if they're going to be celebrating anything, I guess they might as well just rename the celebration and call it the 10th year anniversary in terms of 10 years of Resident Evil on the RE engine celebration, because that would make a lot more sense than saying it's 30 years, because I'm not seeing the first 20 hardly at all or mentioned. Because either A, they barely mention them, or B, they're already trying to replace them and act like they didn't exist in the first place. And mark my words, if they ever do remake the original Resident Evil again, like in terms of a second remake, watch them basically tell you that that's the real one and the other two just, they don't exist. I mean, like, for argument's sake, obviously I'll take Resident Evil Remake over the original one, but it's not like I want the original one forgotten. If it didn't exist, we wouldn't have this franchise in the first place. And yes, I like Remake. I think it's superior to the original Resident Evil, but I'm not going to completely lie to you and say, hey, the original one has no place, we shouldn't mention it. No, we should mention it. It's what started this franchise. And to me, that's just, it leaves a very bitter and foul taste in my mouth, as well as a lot of other fans. So if you're having that feeling that there's something off, you're not alone in that feeling, because I feel a lot. And once again, I don't know how Resident Evil Requiem is going to turn out, but I tell you one thing, they need to pull their head out of where and just figure out, like, this whole celebration, it needs to go back to the drawing board, because it's a failure of a celebration. I mean, if I knew I was celebrating 30 years, I would come with everything, be having so many, merchandise things coming in, brand new stuff. I mean, not even the stuff you can buy is that good. I mean, remember the merchandise, decades ago? Nowadays, it's so cheap and lazy, and it's just, how can you be really excited for it? I mean, I get being excited for Requiem, but outside of that, there's no celebration for this 30th anniversary celebration of Resident Evil, because it's just, it feels so bland and off. And the only thing I can hope for is that they're just acting this way now, and hopefully they unleash so much more next year. But right now, it's just, this ain't it. This ain't it. But as I always like to say, that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. How do you feel the 30th anniversary celebration of Resident Evil is going? Do you think it's been lacking? Do you think it's kind of weird and appalling that they would leave out all the basically RE engine developed Resident Evil games to show mere glimpse of, or just completely exclude them from the discussion? And do you have any hope that they will possibly pick it up next year? Let me know that in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully I see you guys back in the next one. Thanks, and I'll see you all later. Peace.